I will say that both of my brothers enjoy giving me a football and saying, hey, can you hit that house over there? Or hey, can you throw it that far and hit that sign? Or if we're at the beach, can you hit that umbrella? I think Christ really became real to me when my wife, who is now my wife, at the time she was just a friend, she wrote me a letter and it said, you're not the person that I thought you were.
He would say one thing but act the opposite way. So he was talking about God and how much he loved God, and then I would see him going to the parties, hanging out with the girls.
Stay until 3 a.m., all those things, that was my lifestyle.
I thought he was so in love and on fire for God, but then I saw what he was doing and it just wasn't adding up.
I remember at that moment, I felt so selfish, I felt so arrogant, I felt so cocky, but I was still a nice, genuine person. But all of a sudden, all these feelings came upon me. I got down on my knees, and it was finally that time where God kind of put his foot down on my throat and said, hey, I got special plans for you, and you're screwing it up.
So I ended up sitting down talking to Derek, and he had apologized how he acted to me. He apologized how he'd not been, living the Christian life.
And that next week, we had a game at the University of Ole Miss, and I got up in front of my whole team, and I told them, I said, guys, I've been calling myself a Christian, and I haven't been living it. You guys know what I've been doing. I'm a Christian now, and I've asked God for his forgiveness. Now watch how I live my lifestyle. And that's really what a Christian's about. And
so that's when we started hanging out again. And then later on, we started to date. Then we made it official. And then, yeah.
And I remember just looking at him, and I was just in awe of God's creation.
You pack all the first day outfits that you're going to go home with, and you're just so ready to take your baby home.
I remember I went to go grab the nurse because I knew something was wrong. I've been around 7 nieces and nephews, but I'd never seen anything like that.
I couldn't sleep. I held him all night, sat straight up, would not fall asleep. And you're already so exhausted from giving birth.
He had x-rays done and all that. He tells us Dallas is gonna have to have surgery, emergency surgery. Before he went into surgery, they wheeled him out, and we all grabbed hands and I prayed over him. And I prayed for strength. And I praised God that we even had one day to spend with him. And I remember just laying down, and I was so tired that as soon as my head hit, I fell asleep. And they woke me up, and the doctor said everything was great.
They told us at that time he'd spend 48 hours about in the NICU, and then we'd get to go home. Well, I remember 48 hours later, he ended up having a second surgery. And so we were home for about 2 weeks. And Dallas started to throw up again. So we ended up taking him into the emergency room. And this time the surgery was 5 hours long. So, you're just waiting there like, was something really wrong? Like, what's going on,
I kept telling my wife that he was going to be okay. She kept saying, how are you so strong? And I told her, if you only knew. If you only knew. Because I would go into the bathrooms and cry my eyes out. You can be a real Christian, but be dying inside, because we're human.
I just remember feeling God's peace that I could not ever explain.
That's how I know he's with me, because I have a peace and a joy. I can't describe it, but I have it and I know it's real.